welcome to the No Hair, All Heart podcast. I am your bald host, Mookie Spitz, and the one with all heart today is Bobby Buechler. Me and
Hello.
Bobby, hey Bobby,
Hey.
me and Bobby go back all the way to 2007. He used to date one of my colleagues, and Bobby and I kept in touch, the Facebook, the usual. Years and years went by. We kept checking in every once in a while, and then all of a sudden, fall of 2022, I get a message from Bobby. He's like, "Hey Mookie, do you love the band Phish?" And I write one word, no. So he doesn't give a shit. He shows up in New York where I'm living and he sends me another message. He goes, "Hey Mookie, I got a ticket for you, Madison Square Garden, Phish. You want to go?" And I'm like, I guess. I mean, I don't like baseball, but if someone invites me to a baseball game, I'll go. I'll eat hot dogs. I'll throw shit around. I love live events. So I went into this show with a tremendous amount of skepticism. I was like, Phish, they're kind of like the Grateful Dead, right? I had all these biases about the band, but I figure I love Bobby. He's an awesome cat. It's at Madison Square Garden. I'm going to go for it. Guess what? My mind was totally fucking blown. I went from Phish skeptic to
Yeah.
Phish bald head fans. And we've been at multiple shows together.
A
We'll
couple.
talk about those shows. We'll talk about the whole thing. But I so wanted to bring Bobby on the podcast to talk about all things Phish from the vantage of a Phish neophyte. I am a newbie, and Bobby's at show 59. Is that right?
I,
And
I think I think
counting?
I'm at 50. I think Mexico night 4 was my 59th. Yeah.
Awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. So welcome to the podcast, Bobby. And
Yeah. Hi. Thanks for having
let's
me.
get going with all things Phish. I'm just,
Yeah.
for the sake of the audience too, Phish lovers, Phish people, new people to Phish. How did you get turned on to this awesome band? Because that's how I got turned on. It's all because of
Oh
you.
man.
So how did you
Um.
get turned on?
So I got turned on to Fish in the 90s. I was a teenager, and I was dating this girl. This is before I ended up being gay. But I was dating this girl in junior high school, and her older
You were
brother.
gay all along, though, just to clarify.
But I had to I
Right.
had to not be gay in the 90s.
Right.
Anyway, and I was dating this girl, this girl Laura. I'm still friends with her to this day, and her brother Eric was super into Fish and the Dead and Allman Brothers and the Doors and all the all those jam bands and everything. So we'd all kind of hang out. There's like a little group of us, and Eric was older, so he would drive us around in his VW bus, go all around Orange County, just doing ratchet shit. And we ended up I remember we ended up in Newport Beach. We were in Newport Beach on the beach hanging out. We had, our boombox, whatever, joints, beers. We're just doing shit we should not have been doing at 14 years old. But Eric put on the Fish album, a live one, which had recently come out. I think maybe it was released earlier that year. It was their first official live release. And I never heard the band before, but he put it on, and the first song that came on was their song Bouncing Around the Room. And that song is, eh, I mean, it's a really great song, and it holds a really special place in my heart because it's the first Fish song I ever heard. Um, it's not one of their jam vehicles, so a lot of fans like it, but they kind of dismiss it because they never jam it out. It's always like 3.5 minutes, like clockwork. But it's still, I love it. So anyway, that was the first song I heard. It's a total bop of a song. It's super catchy. The lyrics are really cool. And I was like, oh, I like this. This is great. And then, he goes on to play the rest of the album. And there's some really good songs on that album that I would to this day are like, Tweezers on there, Harry Hood, Squirming Coil, You Enjoy Myself. They're like greatest hits are on this album. And we listened to that album, I think, twice that night. We were there from 5 p.m. We were there all day, and we ended up listening to a live one twice for some reason. And that was it. And that was the summer of 1996. And then that fall, the 96 fall tour, Eric took us to see Phish. He caravaned our little group of friends. It was him and his buddy and me and my girlfriend, and then a couple other of my friends. There was like 8 of us cramped in this VW bus, and we went to go see Phish at UCLA in Poly Pavilion. And at that point, I had been to maybe a handful of shows before. I was young, I was a teenager, but my parents were pretty permissive. So, like, I'd seen Dave Matthews at that point. I'd seen Filter. I'd seen Tori Amos once at that point. Little shows here and there with my brothers and sisters, but that was my first Phish show on December 1st, 1996. And I was like, what the fuck is this? What the fuck is this place all about? Shakedown is going on. It was the wildest, like, it was the wildest party I had ever seen ever in my entire life as like a teenager. I wasn't in high school. I was a freshman in high school, so I wasn't going to high school parties yet. And it was about getting ready to, but it was nuts. And that show was amazing, and it changed my life, obviously. So, and here we are, nearly
Yeah,
30,
so you got your
29.
cherry popped by a band known for
Yeah,
amazing live shows.
yeah, yeah.
So
Very, and I'm very lucky to have been able to catch them at that time, and to be a fan this entire time. I don't. My life has been infinitely better because of Phish. It's hard to explain, but a Phish fan will tell you.
yeah, what I noticed is what you're observing right from the get-go is that it's a holistic experience. You
Oh,
got Phish music, which is in a category all unto itself, and we can talk about that
yeah,
too. But it's really about that live show experientially.
yeah,
And a huge part of that live experience, and obviously it's evolved to the point of the multimedia lighting extravaganza of
yeah,
what you and I saw at Madison Square
yeah,
Garden, which
yeah.
was, as you mentioned, a noteworthy show among Phish
Yes.
noteworthy
Yeah.
shows.
So let me pause you right there real quick. For the audience, the first show I took Mookie to was December 29th, 2022. It was night two of that New Year's run. And I told you that night, you got a special show. Like, you didn't know it, but you did. And like on the Phish chats, blah blah blah, you always got people like, oh, what are the best shows, of this era, blah blah blah. 12/29/22 comes up frequently. Like, I see people talk about that and I'm like, dude, I was there. I brought Mookie to it. I looked at it. I'm like, dude, you're getting a banger. And so that's it. So I'll just pause that, and that's what I want to say about that. Yeah.
Well, maybe Trey and company knew I was in the audience, man. We
Right.
got this new guy. He's been skeptical
Yeah.
about us. You know what?
Yeah.
Let's give Mookie a memorable show. So
Yeah.
so I just want to extend, to the Phish community, you're welcome. But it
Oh
just
yeah.
hit me again, the multimedia, the musicianship, the different styles that they incorporate. But what struck me immediately too is the community, the Phish community. You got a lot of bands that have a cult following. You got, like, even back in the day, Rush had its own
Yeah.
following.
The Dead.
You got the Metallica
Yeah.
headbangers. You got every group
Yeah.
has its following.
Yeah.
But the Phish community is a community unlike any that I had ever seen
Yeah.
before. Can you tell us a little bit about your feelings, your
Yeah.
connection to the community, and that aspect that makes it really so special?
Well, the the major thing, I mean, people will say it's kind of homogenous, a bunch of white dudes hanging out, but I don't see that. I see the diversity in the community, and maybe it's not. I mean, yes, it's kind of a sausage fest, and yeah, there's a bunch of white dudes, but the diversity in the
There were a
the
ton of chicks there.
yeah, no, there are, but the diversity and the personality and the type of person who goes, you will be next to you'll find yourself sitting next to Drew Carey, or he'll be right behind you at Madison Square Garden. And, Jimmy Fallon's a fan, and you get doctors and lawyers, and you get CEOs and professionals, and then you get the wookiest wooks, who are cool as shit, but are like, yo, man, can you spare me a ticket? Like, you get this whole range of people. And all, I don't want to say this, but in any other atmosphere, maybe we might not be friends. Maybe we wouldn't have that connection. But at a fish show, you have this connection. You can build this connection with people that you wouldn't necessarily otherwise have a chance to get to know or to associate with or to meet or to, you just wouldn't have that chance. So, and if you surrender to the flow, as they say, and you go and you just go and have a good time, and don't be afraid to meet people, make new friends. You will meet some of the most amazing, wonderful, smart, kind, funny. Um, the community is second to none at a fish show, and if you just go and listen and go around and meet people, you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. So
Yeah, and
that's
it's
yeah,
different. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
the fish
yeah.
community, there's a different vibe. First off, the dress code is somewhere between Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, and a thrift shop,
Right,
right?
right, right.
Yeah, and
And
then
like
weird kind of memes,
yeah,
weird kind of like donuts and shit.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I got
Donuts, yeah,
donut T-shirts for no apparent reason, but apparently there's a big reason.
yeah,
And you guys have your own, and I say you and me. I'm getting the fish buzz, so don't think that there's a boundary here. But you guys, you gals in the fish community have your own language and culture and
yeah,
memes and
yeah,
insider
yeah.
jokes. You
Uh,
got inside sports, inside baseball, you got inside fish and its
yeah,
own thing.
a lot of those come, all of them are song references, right? So a lot of the fish memes that you see and the jokes and the language and the lingo and everything, most of it, if not all, is a reference to a song lyric that is in one of their songs. So if you know their songs, if you know their lyrics, and some of their lyrics are fucking batshit, like what the fuck? Like what is that? What is Trey singing about? Like Reba, their song Reba, for example, it's a recipe for. I always thought of it as a recipe for moonshine, and like or LSD or something. And he's like tossing all these toxic chemicals in a bathtub that this girl is like stirring together with a ladle that her grandmother bought her. And she's like tasting it. She's like, "Oh yeah, this will work just fine. It's going to be the finest in the nation." What the fuck is that? That's just one of many examples. But within that song, you got this I can't even explain it. Just so many different references, like maybe 50, where you can create a meme and create like a joke of something and relate it to like a Reese's peanut butter candy. God, there's like a Reba shirt, like with the Reese's peanut butter candy logo on it. It says, instead of Reese's, it says Reba's. And then on the bottom it says finest in the nation. It's coconuts and chlor. Anyway, I'm blabbering, but those are the jokes. Usually they're from songs. Sometimes you catch one from like something that happened in fish history, like a moment in fish history, like Fishman, the drummer Fishman will play. He doesn't do it as much anymore, but he'll like play a vacuum cleaner. He brings up an Electrolux vacuum on stage, and he'll do like a synchromatic like he's playing a fucking bagpipe or something, and it makes the weirdest sounds. It's the strangest things you've ever seen. but that's not a song, right? But you'll see like a vacuum in like a meme that people will know about, you know? So all these little inside jokes, all these little things that the band does that you'll get if you know the band, if you've been to the shows, if you've seen them, and the shows, as you know, unlike anything anything else out there. So yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, that I noticed right away is
Yeah.
first off that almost everyone in the audience knows every word
Right.
of
Right.
every song.
Right.
So, and the
Yeah.
songs are complex. Some of
Yeah.
them are long. Some of them take you literally on that on
Yeah.
that journey to trigger that flow.
Yeah.
And they're taking you on this adventure with a lot of detail and a
Yeah.
lot of dimension
Yeah.
and a lot of genre flipping. So musically, these guys are amazing. Blues, rock,
Mhm.
heavy metal, bluegrass,
Mhm.
R&B.
Yeah.
There's
Trance, psychedelic. They're getting into
trance,
EDM now too. Like
EDM.
it's yeah.
There's no
Yeah.
genre that they don't master and seamlessly incorporate
Yeah.
into their oeuvre, which is amazing in and
Yeah.
of itself. And
Yeah.
then the lyrics themselves, as you mentioned, are poetic, weird storytelling, and then the entire community knows all the words. So it's a combination of sing along,
Yeah.
trance, rave,
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of. That
trip.
the
Uh,
trance rave is sort of a new thing that they're kind of diddled with at their last New Year's show, which was awesome. Mixed reviews from the Phish community. As a former rave kid myself, I loved it, but that's neither here nor there. Let's move on.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
when Bob Dylan started playing the electric guitar, all of his folksy
Yeah.
fans lost their
We're
shit. So
like,
when
what?
ZZ Top started playing keyboards, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? People
Yeah.
people have trouble adapting, but
Yeah. Yeah, right.
it might catch on.
Yeah.
But to me, as an outsider and as a newbie, these things were most striking to me, which is
Yeah.
first and foremost community,
Yeah.
then the sheer musicianship of these guys,
Yeah.
and I could immediately tell their influences.
Yeah.
Frank Zappa, even the rock classics,
Bowie.
and to the point where
Bowie,
they
yeah.
do pitch perfect interpretive covers, like
Yeah.
the second show we saw when they closed with Communication Breakdown, the Led Zeppelin song, and
Yeah.
that was the best cover I
No,
think I've
there's it was
ever
good.
heard any band ever
It was
do. It was
good times,
mind
bad
blowing.
times.
Good
Good,
time. Yeah, you're
good,
right. You're
good,
right.
good times,
You're
bad
right.
times. Yeah.
You're right. It was
Sorry,
good times,
that's
bad
correct.
times.
Yeah.
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 You're right. You're right.
So they
So
do
it's the
you.
best cover I ever heard
Yeah. So
from any band.
they've covered another. They cover a couple. Oh, they cover a couple of Zeppelin songs. One of my favorites that they've done, and I've seen it twice now, is No Quarter. They've covered No Quarter, and Paige, the keyboardist, will sing that, and it's haunting and just gorgeous and beautiful. And then that's the intro, right? And then Trey comes in and just fucking just rips it out. Last time I saw it was at the Hollywood Bowl, I think. No. I was at Chicago in 2023, but they did it at the Hollywood Bowl that same year. So I got it twice in that year. Holy shit. Oh, sorry. I just talking about Zeppelin. I'm like, yes, let's talk about Zeppelin. Right? Yeah, there you go.
No, but that illustrates a
Yeah,
combination, I think, of the incredible musicianship of these guys
yeah,
and also the eagerness, flexibility, and creativity of Fish's own fans.
yeah,
So there's this immersive experience. It's complex. It's multidimensional. It takes you on that
yeah,
journey in intricate ways. And one quick observation that I had too was that they make their fans work for it. So in big chunks of the show, you'll get into this mesmerizing,
yeah.
trance-like deep groove where they're improvising. It's fairly atonal.
Mhm.
It's not particularly melodic, and you can tell the guys are on stage kind of experimenting in the moment. That
Yeah,
becomes evident. But
yeah,
then they reward you. They reward you
oh,
by busting into the most
yeah,
melodic,
yes.
fist
Yeah,
pumping, ground shaking groove.
Yeah.
And it's this matter of building up tension and releasing it. This idea of like making it really dissonant and then bringing it back to something beautifully melodic. These
Yeah.
guys are masters at extremes, taking the audience there every step and really giving you the ride of your life in terms of the audio, the visual, the sense of community, so that it's this uplifting religious experience that by the end you're utterly exhausted.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
mean,
that's great. And they have the I have to say I've never seen a band take it there like they do. So
yeah.
just before the intermission in the middle, they had a finale which literally went, you got to see
Hold
it
up.
to
Hold up.
believe it. They had a
Hold up.
finale that went for 10, 15 minutes where a band will like crescendo at the end of a song before a break, and it peaks, and it might peak one or two times and then it breaks. But these guys cranked it for like 10, 15 minutes, and it just kept going up and up and up and up in
Yeah.
intensity where I was just breathtaking. They really know how to work it.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna pull up because that I, I know that show, but let me just pull up the set list because I'm trying to remember what the last song on the first set of that night was. Hang on, let me just go here. Set list. Jump to 12,
But
29.
this kind of crescendo is amazing. It illustrates again how much in control they are of their music, of the
Yeah,
audience, and all the lights and all the
yeah,
build up and
yeah.
all that.
Well, that's the thing with them. Like, I mean, Trey's a master. Like, there's this one, there's this one theme or meme going around that Trey is a Jedi. Like Trey is a Jedi. Like he gets into your brain, right? And he knows he's always said so. Like when he creates a set list for a show, right? He's a master set list builder, and he knows when to place those moments of just pure unadulterated ecstasy in your brain. Like they just come at these moments that are perfect, right? And he and you got to understand, like not everyone, but a lot of people are on psychedelics at these shows. Not everyone, but quite a few people are. And if you get these songs, and if you get like a certain song that you've been chasing, or a certain run of songs, or this song into that song, it will be instantly relatable to maybe a quarter of the people in the audience. And you're right, it's like like a religious, spiritual, cathartic experience. I have an example that I'm just going to tell you right now. A friend of mine, my friend Tim, had a dog named Piper that passed away this year, and he was devastated. Piper was a very, very, very good girl. She passed away last summer. Piper was named after the song Piper from Phish, right? It's a beautiful song. It's a song, it kind of jams out. It kind of starts kind of slow, and then it builds, and it's one of those songs where it builds and builds and builds, and eventually it's like this cacophony of music, like just music spinning around the room and spinning around it's a beautiful song, right? So at Madison Square Garden this past year, they played Piper, and Tim hadn't heard it since Piper passed. And I wasn't with Tim, was on the floor and I was in the seats. So they played Piper, and then immediately after that, they went into 2001, which is Tim's song that he had been chasing for since the Sphere. Like he finally got it at the Sphere, right? And 2001 is also Sprague Zarathustra. It's from um oh, what the fuck movie? That science fiction. I'm drawing a blank. I'm sorry, but you'll know it.
2001: A Space Odyssey.
Yes, yes, sorry,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's like a reworked version of that theme song, right? And Phish turns it into a dance party. So Tim got his Piper, and then 2001, and then immediately after that, they played their song "Everything's Right," and that was the set closer. And "Everything's Right" is some people, I love that song. Some people don't like it because they're like, I don't want Phish to tell me how to feel. I want to interpret how I should feel. But "Everything's Right" it says, hey, everything's right. So just hold tight, you're gonna be fine. We're all good, blah, blah, blah. So for my friend Tim to have Piper into 2001, into "Everything's Right," I was crying in my seat for him because I knew the emotion that he was having on I'm gonna cry just thinking about it. Just him thinking about his dog that he lost, and then he got his 2001, and then at the end of all of that, he's like, "Hey, Fish to trade Tim. Hey, Tim, everything's right, man. You lost your dog, but hey, you're gonna be okay." And it's just an example of how they get into your head. And obviously Trey didn't do that for Tim. Trey doesn't know Tim. He doesn't know his story. But for a person to get that, it's such a profound moment of their life. It's such a deep moment where they had, your child, your dog child, and then have it be honored by a way from the band that you have so much reverence for, was just such a beautiful moment for him. And we Tim and I went to Mexico together, and we talked about that moment for like 3 hours and we couldn't stop talking about it. So I'm sorry to ramble on it, but that's an example of what this band does for the community. Whether or not they know it, they do it. And I'm still crying to thinking about it. I'm a fucking big dumb baby. I cry all the time. But yeah, that's Phish in a nutshell. What they do for their fans. We love them. They love us.
Well, it brings in all the elements, which is
Yeah,
community, music,
yeah,
connection,
yeah, yeah,
and that synergy. Just like
yeah.
Trey gave me the best show ever on
Yeah.
December 29th,
Yes,
2022, because
yes,
he knew Mookie was in the audience.
yeah.
So
I'm looking.
and he knew that we would do this podcast and reminisce fondly about
You gotta you
it.
gotta
Yeah.
link after you post this, man. You gotta link that article that you wrote, because I was so like that article, that blog post that you made was summed it up perfectly. Like summed up like the whole Phish experience from a newbie perfectly. So
Great. We'll
like,
put it in the little description note of this
yeah,
podcast so they
yeah,
could link to it.
yeah.
And any other shows you want to include, Bobby, or links that you want listeners to get an exposure to, we could put in the notes
Okay,
section
I've got a
of this.
few. I definitely want,
Yeah.
because we've seen two shows together. I'm hoping you can come to the Hollywood Bowl with me on the 25th. So we'll
All
talk
right.
about we'll talk about
Yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
later.
See, folks, it continues. I've been
Okay.
officially indoctrinated.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I think what you're describing, the story is the perfect illustration of why the band is so special
Yeah.
to everyone involved in the community. And once
Yeah.
again, it's this layered experience between these kind of avant-garde alternative music, very creative, brilliantly executed and rendered with community, and then with the multimedia experience, maybe some chemical enhancement, but you don't necessarily
Yeah.
need that.
Yes. Exactly.
And
Exactly.
and you were mentioning too, I think at some point either during the show or after, that they do tons of philanthropic work
Yeah.
too. Can you
Yeah.
can you cover off on some of the philanthropy that the band has been doing?
Absolutely. So Fish is first. They're just so dedicated not only to their community in where they grew up, in Vermont, East Coast, but they're dedicated to wonderful causes across the country. So they've got a couple organizations within, a couple charitable outreach organizations within their community. One is the Water Wheel Foundation. Let me just pull this up because I want to make sure I give correct information. So if you go to waterwheelfoundation.org, Um, you can volunteer, you can donate, you can give. It talks about the community. Um, And the tagline is inspiring the Phish community to create positive change since 1997. And it's a charitable outreach of from, started from Phish, kind of propagated by Phish fans, where you can volunteer your time. They do events at like food banks. They did let me see. So 2024 volunteer beneficiaries. They did Hope for the City in Las Vegas, where they transformed lives and eliminating hunger in the Las Vegas Valley and beyond, committed to providing care, relief, essential life skills, and resources to empower individuals, ensuring they have the vital support that they need to thrive. The Water Wheel volunteers. Now, these are all Phish fans, right? That want to be involved for this. If you
And
want to get
they
involved,
organize this, or the band
well,
organized
I
it?
think there's I'm not entirely sure who is organizes these, but I'm sure there's, someone up at the top. I have yet to volunteer myself. I will. It's on my bucket list. I'm sorry, but I do want to talk about it because it illustrates the how much more the band does than just being a band, right? They go out to communities. They play games with local kids and hand out food and school supplies. They pick up trash and water flowers. They maintain land conservation and habitat value. They in Missouri, they uh, painted the Gateway 180, Missouri's largest family shelter. It goes on and on and on. I'm just reading the things that they did in 2024. There's like 12 things, and there's years, and it goes back years and years and years. And I'm a nurse. I work as a nurse, right? I do chemotherapy infusion, right? So I care about people and I care about my community and I want people to thrive and be healthy. And the fact that I'm a part of this band that I love so much, and that they have those values that I have in myself and in my family and in my community and my circle, they do the same things that I would support. It's just, really, it's deeply meaningful for me to be a part of this, right? So, anyone watching this, yes, I will volunteer for Waterwheel. I just got a lot going on. So, if I don't, just know I'm helping my community in other ways by administering chemotherapy to sick patients. So, we'll just leave it at that. But I have donated, if I have an extra $100 laying around, and, sometimes I do. I'll give money. So yeah. Anyway, yeah.
So
That's
what inspired the band and the fans to go down this philanthropic route?
um I, I don't know that like what started it. I mean it's I think any band, any organization, let's be honest, if you do something like this, you get a little bit of a tax break because let's call it let's call a spade a spade. But they're actually doing the work, like so exactly what inspired it, I don't know. You'll have to talk to another Phish fan who knows more than me. I don't know everything I know a lot about Phish, but not everything. So um but the work that they've done through the years still is what just really makes me proud. And not embarrassed, because some Phish fans are like really into, and I'm really into Phish, but they're like really into Phish, and but they just talk about, the partying and the shows and this and that. Whereas I like to go party and have a good time, and I'd love going to the shows, but then I also, you know, see all the good things that the fans are a part of, and that just goes back to the community that we were talking about the wonderful people that you're going to meet at a Phish show. Just the the best, kindest, most wonderful people on earth. Some of I've got friends from, I know you from like 15 years ago, longer. I've got friends I've known for decades, that I still am friends with. But my Phish friends, if I meet them at a show one day, we're best friends from that day on. So it's a special place. It really is. Yeah.
I met a few of them that
Yeah.
you've introduced me to. Do you
Yeah.
want to talk about a few of
Yeah. I,
our mutual friends
I
now?
would,
Because they were
I
they were
would,
so they were so delightful
I
and
would
so
love
much
to. They
fun.
are delightful. Yeah. So, when you came out to, or when we came out to Madison Square Garden, you met my friends Alexis and John.
Yeah,
Um,
they were
they're
awesome. They
they're
were so much fun.
so good.
Remember we were making the pizzas talk after the show? They were talking in Brooklyn accents. We could
I
not get enough of
I
that.
so
And-
so I don't do drugs. I do mushrooms. Sometimes I try not to. I don't do get into like the hard drugs at all. I can't. But I can do mushrooms. It's fine. And mushrooms make me silly, make me like giggle, giggle. So when we were at that pizza place, Alexis knows how to push my buttons like hard. And was it you? I don't know who started it, but we were eating pizza and like you folded it and you were making it talk. And Mooks, fuck, man, I almost pissed my pants. I was laughing so hard. And Alexis knows like when if I get started laughing, you've lost me for like 10 minutes. I'm not. I'm in another place. I'm in a laugh
yeah.
zone, and I'm
It
not
was
coming
so
out of
much
it.
fun. And
Yeah.
then you introduced me to Tuesday, who was actually born
Yes.
on a Saturday, I think.
Yeah. I don't know. Tuesday is. I am in love with that man. I
Yeah.
he when he's again the kindest, smartest, funniest, most real. He's got his shit together. He's just a wonderful person. And of course he's straight. That's another problem that I have. I meet all these cool, good-looking
No,
dudes.
nobody's perfect, like they say at the
Right?
end of a Some Like
So
It Hot,
that's
right?
my problem. My toxic
Yeah.
trait is I fall in love with these straight dudes that I meet and I become friends with, and like, no, no, I'm straight. I'm like, all right, well, let's just be friends anyway. And then, but I keep them as friends. I'm very much a bro. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not like a predatory gay. Like I have hands off unless I'm invited.
You're a fish gay.
I'm a fish gay, yeah. But Tuesday is wonderful, and like I can't share I can't share publicly the moment that we had on the streets of New York City. I know you know what I'm talking about.
Now
I know
you're leaving people guessing.
I'm gonna leave them guessing. We're gonna leave that out. And they can just make whatever assumptions that they want. I don't care. But that was a great night. And then we ended up at that bar. And I remember that's why I love you, man, because I love you specifically on Tuesday because of the conversations that we had that night. We just went to a bar, kicked back, had a beer, and we talked for like 2 hours. And we were just shooting some good shit. And we are just talking about the show.
Yeah, it was like the fish mojo
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah,
moving all over. And again,
totally.
it's like that shared excitement and the uniqueness. And I remember one thing that we talked about was, how you just mentioned a little while ago that no fish show is the same as
Right,
the prior fish
right,
show. And
right.
what makes that possible is that they literally have hundreds of songs over decades
Yeah,
that they could draw from.
yeah.
And the fans there's kind of a fish pool. They're trying to guess
They,
what they're gonna open with. They
yeah,
guess like what they're gonna cover, and each show is its unique experience,
yeah,
not only because of the venue and the circumstance, but because of the lineup. Usually, you'll see a show from a band, and they'll play their latest album or release,
yeah,
peppered with some of the oldies to
yeah,
keep all the fans,
yeah.
the cross generational fans,
Fish
interested.
mixes it up. Fish mixes it
Yeah,
up.
yeah. So
You,
old and new, and it's all together, which is really delightful. So it's kind
yeah,
of a dynamic experience each time.
yeah. You never know what you're going to get at a fish show, and it's funny that you mentioned that. I'm in a group chat with Alexis and John and a bunch of our other friends, and it's a guess the fish opener, right? And it's a running tab, right? It's $1 per show per person, and there's a pool, right?
Right.
So however many shows have gone by, The next person that guesses the opener, every person owes that person $1 for however many shows went by, right? So I've won twice. So the first time I won was that New Year's run that I took you
Yeah.
to on New Year's Eve. I guessed the tweezer opener. I was like, and I knew it in my head. I was like, they didn't have done tweezer yet. They're going to open with tweezer. We're going to have a tweeze fest, and they're going to close with twee prize. And that's exactly what they did. I didn't say that, but I was thinking in my head. But I did call the tweezer opener, and I
Yeah.
knew. I was like, okay, I got that one. And then the last one that I guessed was the bathtub gin opener at Mexico, and there I was with some buddies I was with some buddies, right? I was with them, not that aren't in that group, but right before the band came out, I'm kind of loud and boisterous. I can't help it. But it's like, hey, it's bathtub Jan. I called it my opener, blah blah blah. And then Trey comes out and he says he sees the people swimming in the ocean. He's like, "Ah, this is for you. The people in the ocean swimming, blah blah blah." And they went into bathtub gin, and everyone around me was like, "Dude, you called it!" Like, so I had a really, it was a cool moment. It was a cool moment. I won like $60 or whatever. It was
Good
fun.
for you.
Yeah, I had a good
And
time.
that helped sponsor retroactively your Sphere show tickets.
Like,
Can you I'm sure a lot of listeners are
oh
curious about the Phish Sphere
yeah, yeah,
experience. The Sphere, as we all know, is Vegas's biggest, newest venue,
yeah,
and because it's so challenging to choreograph all of the infrastructure that goes into it,
yeah,
syncing the visuals, the
yeah,
sound, the acoustics, unique for each band, unique for each show,
yeah.
they go for a run. So you two opened, and they were there for I think maybe even a couple months,
I
right?
think they did. I think they did 82 shows at the end of it.
82
I could
shows
be.
at the
Yeah,
Sphere,
I
right,
think
right.
that's what it was.
So it was Fish's turn at the Sphere.
Yeah.
Now, based on everything that we've described, and even if you have tiny exposure to Fish, you
Yeah.
realize that this is a perfect venue, you would assume, for Fish, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about Fish at Sphere, because I'm sure a
Okay.
lot of people are curious about that
Yeah.
experience.
So, um, Fish at Sphere. First of all, let me just say, changed my life in more ways than
Well,
one.
that's a bold statement.
No,
That's the
it
Pepsi challenge of live
no,
music.
it really did, and I'll kind of get into that in a little bit. But the shows themselves. So I had the shows themselves were incredible, and it wasn't really the visuals. The visuals were cool, but it was the sound of the sound, the hyper directional way that they could direct and program the sound in the building, in the sphere, right? It wasn't their amps on the stage blaring at you from one area, and then maybe amps up here and in the back, blah blah blah. No, 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 you had like however fucking many, like 1,600 or 16,000, I forget, speakers all over, and they were able to program these speakers. So if you were literally sitting in one spot, you'd hear the drums come in, maybe in your right ear, and then in another spot you'd hear, Mike's bass come in this ear, blah blah blah, and then they would like switch, so like the music would like kind of swirl around you.
So you didn't even have to do drugs for this
No,
show if you were even
no,
thinking
you
about it.
didn't. No, and the first night I was essentially sober. I was just there to like just take it all in, and in um I was up in the 400, so I was up in the top in the 400s, kind of on the far right side, really close to the ceiling, right? So kind of close to, like, I was maybe 10 feet below where the speakers were. Where, mind you, most people were like, the sphere is so big, they're maybe 75, 100 feet away, but I was right next to the speakers, right? So they closed the first night with their song Run Like an Antelope. Okay. And I love telling this story because this is one of the most profound, incredible examples I can give of the Sphere shows. So their song "Run Like an Antelope" it's a fan favorite. It's a classic. It's an old one. It's just a fun little ditty, you know. And at the end of it, there's this sort of crescendo, this kind of build up, and it goes faster and faster and faster. And then it's supposed to. I feel like Trey wrote it like that um, to make you feel as if you're in an antelope stampede, right? Like you're just like, whoa, shit, all this shit's going, blah, blah, blah. So, what they did for the sound during Antelope was they spun the sound around the room, right? So the direction of the sound was spinning forward, and it made me feel. And mind you, I was not. I think I had one. I was one beer. I don't really like to drink at Phish shows. I don't drink that much anyway, and I don't drink at Phish shows. I think I had one beer that entire night, and that was it. And then I couldn't. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. When that moment of Antelope was going on, and the room was spinning, 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 I kept like falling into the person next to there's this girl next to me, and I was sitting by myself because I had to piecemeal my tickets to get the cheapest seats that I could. So I got here, this is the first night, next night was somewhere else, the third night was somewhere else. Anyway, and this girl, she was super cool. She was great. Forget her name. I had to apologize to her. Like, I'm so sorry. I'm like, this music is like pushing me around. She's like, dude, that was the wildest thing I had ever seen. Like, it was wild. So that was one of the most intense moments of the Sphere. And then just everything, the whole experience, just the sound, the visuals. I mean, another big moment of that run was when they did their song "You Enjoy Myself." And you might start, I don't know if you saw this, or if you did, you're going to start seeing it now. At the end of that song, they do sometimes, but not always. The band will do this like it's like a vocal jam where they just get it in the mic and they make weird asynchronic, just mumbling, like chanting noises. It's just very strange. Some people can't handle it. Like it's like gets into their brain and they're like, "Oh my god, I can't do this." I think it's a testament to like how fucking weird this band can be. Anyway, at the vocal jam at the end of "You Enjoy Myself" at the Sphere, Trey Trey was like slurping into the microphone, like licking an ice cream cone. But what was on screen was this dog, was this dog licking the screen, right? Like literally licking this big ass chocolate lab, just going to town on the screen. And not only that, but the dog was like making eye contact with you, and he's like looking at you like this, and he just made it oddly weirdly sexual in a way, but like fun, like in a funny way. So where I was sitting that night, that was the second night, I was under the 200. So I was in the back. I didn't have like a clear view of the entire screen, but I could see enough of what was going on, right? But because I was in the back, and mind you, this second night I was on mushrooms. So I did eat mushrooms the second night. So um, I could not stop laughing, right? But get me on mushrooms and I am all giggles all the time. And I could not stop laughing, and I was laughing so hard, and I was so embarrassed because you could hear my laughter reverberate, like echo underneath this awning. And then people were like laughing at me, and it was not like I was disturbing the show. Trey's just slurping into the microphone and I'm just like uncontrollably laughing. And it finally ended, and my abs hurt, everything hurt. I was and then that was the set break, and this girl came up to me and she gave me the biggest hug. I was so embarrassed, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry." And she's like, "Dude, that was the most magical moment. Dude, we were dying laughing at you. We're like, we get it. You couldn't get it together, but don't feel bad. It was fucking hilarious. So anyone who was in that section 101 underneath who heard me that night, that was me. I'm sorry. Anyway, that was another magical moment. But the sphere, the whole run was just, and I'm so lucky, incredibly lucky to have been able to go to all four shows. I know, I recognize that. I was able to get there and holy shit, it was incredible. Yeah.
So it seems mission accomplished for
Yeah.
the developers of the Sphere. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a big capital investment. They took a
Yeah.
big risk, and it's still kind of iffy how they're trying to monetize it, but it
Yeah.
sounds like it is the ultimate venue to see a multi-dimensional, multi-sensory kind of act like
Yeah.
Phish. So
Yeah.
Phish epitomizes the kind of experience that the
Well,
people who created the Sphere were intending to create.
yes and no. I mean, a fish show, like a regular fish show, is not, other than the light show by, their master, Chris Caruta, other than the light show, it's not, the lights are amazing, by the way, that. The lighting is, the best in the business. But like other than that, they don't have like screens. You're not seeing like, other visuals. It's just the lighting. So having Phish play the Sphere with those visuals was a completely new experience for the band and for the fans. So, which is why it was a little bit of a novelty, yeah, but it
Well,
was,
that's what I'm
yeah,
getting at,
yeah,
which is
okay,
there's no better band to do the Sphere with than a band that prides itself
yeah,
on multi-dimensional sensory
but
input.
I'd say multidimensional sound. But like I said, they're not the visuals. It's just the lighting. So I would say, don't get me wrong, Fish at the Sphere changed my life. But I would say like a band like Tool or Dead and Co has been doing shows there, or like um I guess the U2 probably. I didn't catch any of the U2 shows, but like those shows have much more of a multimedia um show for like I saw U2 at their 360 tour at the Anaheim at the Anaheim Stadium, and that was amazing, and it was very much a visual experience. It wasn't just lights rigs moving. So I would imagine like a band like U2 or even Coldplay, Tool. Like I come back to Tool. If Tool ends up at Sphere, I'm I'm there. Fucking there for sure. I would not miss Tool at the Sphere. But I saw Fish at the Sphere. I did spend a lot of money on those tickets. I'm not proud to admit it. But if they go back there again, I will try to go back there again. But I've done it. I've seen it. If I miss it again, I won't have the FOMO that I knew I would have had if I didn't go the first time. So, but I am going to try. There are rumors that Fish will be at the Sphere this Halloween. There's heavy rumors that there's going to be a Fish Halloween run. So we'll see.
Oh, that'd be pretty
Yeah,
cool.
yeah,
So for Phish fans, I'm sure you're saying a lot of the stuff that Phish fans have known and
yeah,
appreciated
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
For
yeah.
someone listening to this podcast who's never experienced Phish before,
Mhm.
sell them in like you sold them into me. You sold them into me with hey, I'm at Madison Square Garden, Mookie. You want to see a cool show? I said
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. I
What
mean,
what's a Phish pitch? Like what about Phish in almost a little soundbite is so transformative for you? Like there's so many bands. You just listed off Tool,
yeah,
U2. The list goes on of iconic bands who have been around for decades
yeah,
that have carved their own swath.
yeah,
They've in a sense created their own genre. All
yeah.
of these bands, which is why they've stuck around and why they're so iconic. What's this Phish thing? as someone who's seen 59 of the shows, who
Yeah.
lives for experiences like the Sphere, and you can honestly say that it's a major part of your life because you have so many friends
Yeah.
connected to the community. You go so many times during the year. It's a really integral part of your life. What's done it for you? Why are they this important, do you think?
It's such a it's such like I don't want to say a loaded question. It's not a loaded question because it's not. I'm not gonna get in trouble by anything I say. So maybe that's not it. It's such a complicated question to answer. Um, for there's a couple things. First of all, it's the nostalgia for me, right? So when I first saw Fish in '96, I saw them maybe 10 times or so in the '90s. Yeah, 10 or 11 times in the '90s, and then I didn't see them for a long time. Um, through the early 2000s, I didn't see them again. I think until 2011 when they came back to the bowl. And then I didn't see them again. I saw them a couple times. I saw their bowl shows in 2011, 2013. I saw them in Long Beach. And then I didn't I didn't really dig deep like I am now until fall of or summer 2022, right before I met you. I went to the Dick's run. I was living in Denver at the time, and I happened to have I'm a nurse, so I happened to have Labor Day weekend off for some reason. I was supposed to go to Napa with my sisters, and I canceled that trip, and I found myself in Denver alone. And then on the Phish pages, I found someone with an extra pass um, for those runs for that run, and ended up being Alexis and John that I went to New York with, and that sort of started this. It like reignited this passion for this band that I've always had. It's always been there, deep. But then it's now that I don't have these like shitty ex-boyfriends holding me back, and I have money, and I'm in my career, and this and that, blah blah blah. Then I can actually go and embrace it. So, what about the show that makes it so special is the nostalgia for me. It's like bringing me back to my youth a little bit. It's bringing me back to those days of the '90s with my friend, with Eric and Craig and Ryan and Eddie and Tony and Laura and all these people that I grew up with, going to shows with, and I'm still friends with them to this day. They don't go to shows with. I try to get them to show. I think they'll go to the Hollywood Bowl shows. We'll see. But I'm able to branch out and make these friends and make these other connections. So for me, I'm a very social creature. Like I love meeting new people. I love having, I don't feel need to be validated by having a ton of friends, but I like having wonderful people in my life. So going to these Phish shows and meeting these wonderful people and spending time with them and having that experience with them, like you said earlier, it is spiritual, like it's church for me. I don't
Right.
I don't go to church. I go see Phish, and it literally cleanses my soul. It just there's something about it that I can't quite describe. And to sell someone on it, my girlfriend Ladan, who I met in Seattle, 2023, my friend Ladan is just a lovely, lovely person, and she kind of summed it up best to answer this question. She's like, I shouldn't have to explain, or I shouldn't have to convince someone to come to this. Like, we are having the time of our lives. This music is unlike anything else. You're either going to love it or you're going to hate it. Regardless, it's a party. The people are wonderful. You're going to have a good time. I'm having the time of my life every single time I go. If you want to go check it out, go check it out. Do you like to have fun? Great. Go to a Phish show. You'll have the time of your life. If you don't like to have fun, then don't go. And what I love about you, Mookie, and your time when I took you, because you are the biggest asshole critic I've ever known. But I
Thank you
love,
for that.
yeah, but I love it. I love, your movie reviews and your show reviews, and you've got this like I remember your when you wrote about Inception.
Oh yeah, I hated
Remember?
that
I
fucking
know.
movie.
I was like, what? How could you hate that movie? For example, for your listeners and for everyone
Right.
watching, your review of Inception was like, Mookie, you're a pretentious prick, dude. Like, that was
Right.
a
Right.
great movie, and I wasn't sure. I say that with total reverence. You know, I love you,
Oh
man.
no, I
Yeah.
consider this extremely flattering.
Okay. All right. So we're on the same page.
Yeah.
So, I was. I gotta admit, I was a little nervous, but I'm like, no, Mookie likes music. I know you're a Zappa fan, right? And
Yeah, and I'm honest,
yeah, and
and
you're
then even if
honest.
I go in thinking that I'm gonna hate something,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
can win me over because I
Yeah.
have my own kind of like critical values. Like, do they accomplish what they set out to do?
Yeah.
Do they accomplish it well? And does the audience love them? I was a
Check,
theater
check,
critic in
check.
Chicago for a year. I saw like 150 shows, and sometimes I would hate a fucking show, but give it a 5-star review because they did what they wanted to do, and the audience loved them, and it was a beautiful experience for everyone except me. And it's not about my fucking opinion. But honestly, when Phish blew my ass away, honestly, there's no compromise here. Not
Yeah.
only do they accomplish their goals, and
Yeah.
not only are they adored by their fan base,
Yeah.
and not only do they do all of this really well, but aesthetically, to your point,
Yeah.
I personally thought that they're fucking brilliant and
Yeah.
just genius in the execution, the
Check.
selection, the creativity. And
Yeah.
that kind of segues to my pitch for Phish, if you haven't been exposed to them. That, Bobby related the sense of community, the sense of nostalgia, all the emotional
Yeah.
anchors that this band
Yeah.
has and perpetuates and keeps giving out. From me, from that critical asshole point of view, my egghead is up here.
Yeah.
Phish is the ultimate meta band.
Yeah.
So they take from every style that you've ever heard, everything from R&B to blues to heavy metal to country to bebop, and they are so well versed in all of these styles from a craft, from a professional point of view, that when they cobble together their songs and their set list, it's kind of like a meta commentary on music itself. It's like seeing the whole chessboard of our culture and our music through all the different styles and through that unique Phish tapestry of creativity and execution through the community and the energy of a live performance. They're enabling everyone who wants to participate to jump out of themselves and their own
Yeah.
life. You're a nurse and you're battling with cancer patients.
Yeah.
I deal with clients. Everyone's got a boss and everyone's got someone breathing down their neck, and life is a pain in the ass. Right?
Yeah.
It's hard. And when you go to a Phish show, that's all gone.
Yeah.
They're magicians in terms of taking the elements of life, everything that you've experienced, all these different styles of mood, and cobbling it together into this communal experience that is shared and yet is floating above all the bullshit by being able to do that. And when you're at a show, you're not only just kind of out of your mind and in your own heart, but you've gone to a place of such meditative calm and celebration with their magicianship. And to me, that's the most special thing about Phish, which is they're magicians who take you out of the banality of your everyday life with all the absurdity of the lyrics and the fucking donuts and the people dressed like Lord of the Rings in a thrift shop, and people are handing out Uno cards with bullshit written on them, and everyone's tripping balls or like acting weird, and it's so comfortable and homey
Yeah.
because you leave all of the bullshit behind. It's a
Yeah.
true meditative
Yeah.
experience where you could really, really just be yourself and have a good time.
Yeah.
That's what my impression of this band was, and it's stuck. You know what I mean? And even hearing you and feeling you emote to me is proof that they're great at accomplishing that goal of bringing people joy.
No one does it like Phish. No one does it like Phish.
Yeah,
They're
to me,
just
that's
it's
what's so special
yeah,
about this band. That,
yeah,
yeah, you can say that they're genius craftsmen, and yeah, you can say they got the best light show in the world, and yeah, you can say that, it's a big old party. But there's a bunch of acts that kind of have these elements to a greater or lesser extent.
mhm,
But the spirit behind Phish is one of transcendence, inclusion, creativity, and almost spiritual release. And
yeah,
I think that they nail it. And I'm thankful that you sent me that message back
yeah.
in fall of 2022, like, hey, Mookie, do you like Phish? And I said, no.
No.
And now in February, in the winter of 2025, we're on this fucking podcast, and I'm saying, fuck yeah.
Oh yeah.
So
Um,
thanks for joining, Bobby. I
yeah,
appreciate you talking about all things Phish.
yeah,
And we're
man.
gonna put links in the description. Bobby
Yeah,
send them over to me with anything from shows or anything that's public domain that you could share that people can maybe see and get in. So whether you're a newbie, whether you never heard of Phish and you give them a no like I did,
yeah.
or whether you're at show 59, I'm sure people listening are at show 300. I met people
Oh,
at
yeah,
Madison Square Garden and they were like, oh yeah, man, this is 431 for
yeah,
me,
for sure. Yeah, yeah. So I love the band. I've loved them, love them, and I'm thankful now that now that I have the money and the time to actually go see them now, and I'm not tied down by shitty ex-boyfriends that just weren't into it,
So
So
you have been released, and then
yeah.
Phish is the perfect band to
Oh man,
release
it's
you,
been great.
right?
It's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love them.
Awesome. All right,
All right,
thanks.
all right.
Thanks, Bobby.
It was
Rock and
great chatting
roll.
with you. I'll send you
Yeah,
those
yeah, and we
links.
could follow up. Like, let's see another show, or like, let's do another Phish
I'm
check-in.
I'm
And
telling you, man.
everyone listening, you could send me a text over at the top of the description if you want like more info. You have any questions for me or Bobby? Like, give us a little bit. Or if you're a Phish fan and you just want to share your Phish story, I
Yeah,
could repost it or republish it. So thanks
yeah,
so much for
for sure.
listening.
All
All
right,
right.
man.
Take
Yeah,
care,
take care.
boss.
Thanks,
Hey,
buddy.
bye bye.
Bye
Hey,
bye.
bye bye. Hey.
Oh, okay, there you go.